The global exchange of scientific data relies on a system of trust. But when that data contains advanced artificial intelligence, aerospace engineering, or encrypted communications, that trust is increasingly being intercepted. Protecting this knowledge falls under the mandate of research security. The objective is to prevent critical technologies and localized data from advancing the geopolitical and military interests of foreign threat actors. This map tracks a synchronized strategic pivot across allied democracies. Intelligence assessments from these regions reveal a coordinated two-pronged defense model, red zones indicating rapid perimeter hardening, and green zones tracking massive capital injections into domestic ecosystems. The first response aggressively seals research perimeters against foreign espionage, cutting off high-risk partnerships. The second response injects state capital to build sovereign tech capabilities, replacing banned foreign hardware with trusted domestic infrastructure. For decades, the default stance of Western academia was borderless, agnostic collaboration. Scientists published findings openly, assuming a shared pursuit of human progress. Today, as those defaults shift, university laboratories and open-source data exchanges are being reassessed as active fronts for geopolitical technological competition. To understand why these perimeters are hardening, we must trace how hostile states acquire protected research. The most common vector is entirely legal academic publishing. A recent Strider report maps this exposure. Since 2020, Australian organizations produced over 6,000 joint publications with Chinese military-linked institutions. New Zealand added 500 more. This network filters heavily into dual-use sectors, clustering around AI, aerospace, and advanced communications. Remote collaboration is only one method. Hostile states also rely on physical infiltration by intelligence operatives placed inside allied institutions. In Germany, authorities arrested 2 Munich residents accused of operating an espionage network for a Chinese intelligence service, targeting aerospace and IT research. The suspects allegedly bypassed university security by adopting cover identities, posing as academic translators or industry employees to build networks with scientists. These methods demonstrate that adversaries view university labs and joint Ph.D. programs as unguarded technology pipelines for military advancement. Alongside intellectual property theft, adversaries require the physical acquisition of sensitive hardware, a process demanding complex logistical subversion. Investigators recently dismantled a Russian network operating through a front company in Lübeck, Germany, designed to bypass Western sanctions and procure high-tech components. This flowchart tracks the evasion route. The German firm used shell companies to route sensitive shipments through intermediaries in Turkey. Once in Russia, false documentation masked the hardware's true destination: end users connected to state defense and nuclear research. The Lübeck case proves that without verifiable end-user controls, globalized supply chains actively arm the very militaries allied nations are attempting to contain. Faced with these exploitation vectors, allied governments are shifting from passive monitoring to active state intervention, rewriting the rules of academic engagement. In Australia, the government invoked updated rules limiting scientific grant approvals strictly to national interest considerations. The threshold for intervention is concrete. The Australian Education Minister recently vetoed 13 separate research applications submitted to the Australian Research Council, citing direct concerns over national security and defense. Securing the perimeter also requires purging compromised physical infrastructure from government operations. Ontario's government has banned the use of Chinese-made drones across high-security provincial police operations and emergency response teams. The risk stems from the legal framework governing the manufacturer. Companies can be compelled to share vast amounts of data with the state intelligence apparatus. High-security zones can no longer deploy technology whose underlying data architecture is legally bound to a hostile foreign power. For the highest tier of sensitive technologies, policy bans and funding vetoes are deemed insufficient. True security requires extreme physical isolation. The U.S. is currently evaluating Project Spire, a proposal to establish an artificial intelligence facility deep within Israel's Negev desert. The proposed site would integrate military-level security with advanced chip design and large-scale computing, creating a tightly controlled environment where trusted allies collaborate. This signals a shift in how Allied intelligence views advanced AI. Its development requires physically quarantined environments to shield intellectual property from state-sponsored espionage. Severing ties with foreign providers solves the security problem, but it creates an immediate capability vacuum. To fill that vacuum, governments must activate the second strategic prong, domestic capitalization, funding the creation of trusted sovereign technology. Canada is heavily funding its own orbital infrastructure, deploying a $105 million federal investment to boost 3 domestic space companies, Nord Space, Reaction Dynamics, and Canada Rocket Company. Building independent aerospace capability requires immense physical power and specialized manufacturing that cannot be outsourced to untrusted partners. Ottawa's objective is to enable satellite launches directly from Canadian soil by 2028. This reduces dependence on foreign providers and ensures critical defense and communications payloads remain under national control. Sovereignty in orbit must be matched by sovereignty in testing and evaluation on the ground. In Oshawa, the federal government invested $5 million to upgrade Ontario Tech University's climatic aerodynamic wind tunnel. As an approved center under NATO's Diana network, it subjects drones and military vehicles to extreme environmental stress tests. By owning the infrastructure to test advanced military hardware, Allied nations ensure their research and development stays strictly within trusted, verifiable borders. This aggressive capitalization extends into the competition for artificial intelligence. In Alberta, the University of Alberta and the Machine Intelligence Institute completed a $30 million global recruitment campaign specifically designed to capture elite AI talent. The capital injection secured 25 leading global researchers, many holding Canada CFAR AI chair positions, pulling top scientific minds into a protected domestic ecosystem. Academic talent generates the algorithms, but a sovereign system requires corporate entities to scale and protect the resulting software. Following an agreement to acquire the German AI firm Aleph Alpha, the Canadian AI company Cohere recently acquired the biomedical firm Reliant AI. Reliant AI specializes in processing large volumes of scientific data for pharmaceutical firms. By absorbing this capability, Cohere is building an alternative to U.S. tech giants, equipped to handle highly sensitive global health and life sciences data. True technological sovereignty is a complete closed loop, from the academic researchers writing the code to the corporate platforms securing the global data. This stack architecture illustrates the Allied defense strategy. You secure the base with vetted talent, process work through sovereign corporate data platforms, and house operations in isolated facilities. When replicated globally, this replaces vulnerable nodes with hardened, self-reliant ecosystems. Through joint standards and shared investments, these individual actions form a unified consortium, ensuring that technological collaboration occurs only among verified partners. The necessity of this defense protocol becomes obvious when we examine the adversary systems these technologies are used to build. A newly uncovered Chinese police surveillance system integrates facial recognition, mobile data, and travel records to build predictive holographic profiles. It tracks individuals in real time, mapping movements and monitoring behavior to exert total automated control over foreign journalists and dissidents. In 2026, research security is the mechanism used to keep the digital tools of behavioral mapping and automated surveillance under democratic control. Protecting this research is now the baseline requirement for maintaining technological sovereignty and national security.